What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're going to talk about Building the Band on Netflix, Season 1. This was a competition series that dropped on Netflix. If you aren't aware of it, that's okay. It's not making the band, it's building the band. I'm guessing they couldn't get the rights to the name, Making the Band. So we went with Building the Band just to make things more confusing. So, yeah, this series does have audio description, and the audio description is actually kind of impressively good throughout the course of the run of the show. You're going to get like little bits and pieces. The show doesn't really lend itself to describing any of these kids like right up front all the time, like the first time you meet them. So it kind of keeps track of like who it has or hasn't said anything about, and it tries to come back around to them. So you might get some description on the character, well, a person, character, whatever, later on in the series, but you didn't get anything the first time you saw them because they were sort of like montaged or whatever. There wasn't a space for it because, you know, there's singing, there's talking, there's singing, there's talking. It's just kind of a hard dynamic to break into. And then later on, you're going to get sort of these performances that have choreography, that have costumes and staging, you know, props on stage, all different sorts of things. So, yeah, it was a really solid audio description track. But we're not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about, does this show work? No. I liked it, but no, it does not. The longevity of Building the Band is going to be a problem for Netflix because sort of like The Voice, and why nobody can really name, they have a hard time with The Voice. And I know we're going to get up against, and I've been there with people too, because it's not like The Voice is incapable of producing talent or producing actual recording artists. They do produce recording artists. In case you ever wonder where Morgan Wallen came from, The Voice. But these shows lack a structure. And when you think about like where reality shows used to, where this whole trend began, it began with American Idol, let's be honest. This whole generation has been trying to get here because of American Idol. But what did American Idol offer? A record deal. So the shows, they used to offer record deals. Now a lot of them just offer sort of like cash prizes. And I guess you could go have a record. Like nobody wants to sign these people anymore. So they don't really have any sort of a, they're not known for making necessarily success stories anymore. There's nothing here, by the way, spoilers, because I'm probably going to talk about at least some of the results of this show. There's nothing really here to suggest that any of these groups are going to go on. And if anything, the way the format works makes it actually harder. I've read an interview done with all of these groups, and each one of them discussed the elephant in the room, which is, yeah, it was really easy to make music when we were on the show because we were together, but as soon as we got eliminated or the show was over, suddenly we all live in different places. And that becomes a problem because then they're supposed to continue being a band, but you know, most of them got into this to win a cash prize because they're poor and they need to help their families. So that's why their stories work, is because you have all of these people who are like, I want to get back to my parents. We're about to lose my home. You know, like that kind of thing. And plus only one group won. So some of the groups don't even have any money. So the one group that won is the only group that has any money to be able to help their parents. The other groups just went home. And then people are like, well, are you guys ever going to record music? And it's like, we were poor. Like Solidify, that interviews with Solidify, and they admitted, they're like, yeah, we're all working on solo stuff and we have some ideas for group stuff that we'd like to do, and we kind of talk and work. They're like, we'd love to be a band, but logistically. Midnight Till Morning apparently has met together and recorded some things. They're the only one that really says that they have something ready. Season 4 has supposedly met up, but Frequency has not. Frequency has just thought about it. So Um, and Sweet Seduction broke up. So I don't think, and the first eliminated group, it's never a great thing to be first eliminated. I don't think anybody's looking for anything from Siren Society. I hate to be I would not have eliminated them first. I would have eliminated Sweet Seduction first, but that group was never going to work. It was whoever was editing this show hates Allison, hates Allison. I would love to have her take on her edit in this series because she is edited so poorly. I kept watching this series and recapping it on my website and being like, who the who the fuck did she piss off? Her edit was so profound. She was like, we were constantly talking to Allison about her opinion on things. Like it was down to her choice at the end of like which group is she gonna choose to fill out the final group. And then we kept talking to her and talking to her, and we talked to her more than her bandmates. And I was like, why? And then you see like the problem with her and what was his name, Connor, uh, and you're like, oh, okay. And then you see her with her band, and she's making these comments about her band, and then there's like drama in the band, and yeah, they set her up. She was the heel of the show. So I don't know. Maybe she has some future on reality television or not, but she definitely did not get what she got out of this. She's gonna have a hard time if she wants to try to audition for something else because the edit that's out there for her of this show is not great. It's not flattering at all. It doesn't really help her. She's gonna have a lot of work to do to come back from that. She might be a perfectly fine person. It's all editing. So, but yeah, they're not working together. No surprise, they didn't really have chemistry. That was the same note that was given to them over and over. But the point is that Netflix, which has sort of like infinite possibilities right now, and they're building sort of their own little reality show universe where they're starting to have people competing on things, they have the ability to work with any of these groups. They have the ability to put them in anything so that way building the band ends up becoming more successful. They can use Frequency immediately and have them record something and put it into one of their own movies. And then suddenly they have the new hit original song, Frequency, is in the new movie that's premiering in October. This finale was actually filmed like a year ago. That's why Liam Payne is in it, is because they sort of sat on this series. So they've had plenty of time to have done any work with any of these contestants. And it doesn't take much to invest in a show and to say, we want the show to have a future, but in order to have a future, people have to have ever heard from these people ever again, because this isn't a show that supports last names. So it's hard for people to say, who are you? Oh, I was Malik on Building the Band. Did you look up my last name? There's a whole bunch of like single named people. So they all have to go out there and hope that you remembered them or liked them if they're trying to do solo work from Building the Band. I don't think it's not going to really strike a whole lot of fancy for too long if nobody ever becomes, where is the One Direction? They brought Liam Payne on here, who came out of one of the most successful boy bands to come out of a reality show ever, if not the most successful. So, and he talked about how they didn't even win. And where's that group? This is a year later. Netflix had all the time in the world to make music with these guys, with any of these groups, and they could have put it out there. Apple, when they did a country show, My Kind of Country, I think that's what it was called. It's produced by Reese Witherspoon, and they were looking for a new country singer. And Apple had synergy with that because they have Apple Music. So every time a contestant was eliminated, their album was put onto their little like EP or whatever, was put onto Apple. So that way you could go listen to it immediately because that was where it was. And you're thinking to yourself, well, Netflix doesn't have that. And it's like, Netflix has video games. Netflix has workout videos. Netflix could have had music videos. Netflix could have a Frequency music video. It could have a season 4 music video. could have had to solidify a music video. You know what I'm saying? Like, they could have shot things for these people. They also produce movies, and they're constantly needing people to record things for them, or a theme song for their TV show where they're able to say, there's a way for them to propel their own talent forward, much like they do their reality show talent. You know, when you're on Love is Blind, welcome back to Battle Camp, you know? We loved you on Too Hot to Handle, so we're going to put you on this other reality show and on Netflix. So they already do that. They already sort of perpetuate their own talent and build up their own reality show people. So the question is, okay, so now you've created a singing competition series. What do you do with it? Well, what you do with it is you record them. And Netflix has to have a method in order to do that, in order to push these artists forward. Otherwise, they've set them up in the weirdest way because they're not solo artists. So it's a lot harder for them to stand on their own because now they have to meet up to record music and they have to do that without a label, without management. Nobody, to my knowledge, anything that I've read is signed. So nobody signed any of these people. No matter how much Nicole and Kelly loved them, they didn't get them signed anywhere. One of the things about The Voice that was nice was that Blake, for years, when you look at a lot of the people who are successful, they were on Team Blake because he worked really hard to make sure his talent got signed, more so than any other judge. If you listen to some of the interviews of the people who've come off of The Voice, they're not always as complimentary about having worked with some of the other mentors throughout the course. Some of them more than others, but some of them, they're just like, yeah, I never saw my mentor. They never really did anything with me unless the cameras were on. So, but Blake actually took it seriously, which is why it was great to have him for so many seasons. I'm not saying he's my favorite artist, but when you actually take the job seriously and you actually work to try to help somebody, you know, they have Nicole there and she's like, well, I was the one who formed One Direction for X Factor. You know, that was me. So she's taking credit for that. It's like, okay, so you did that. But how are you going to help these groups? You know, you want to take credit for one thing. So now you're saying that you love these groups and you think it's amazing. And what are you going to do to help them? Apparently nothing, because these groups haven't done anything. They're a year later, and no one has any music ready to drop in a year. You know, this show should have been ready to drop with, and now, after the finale, check out the hot new music video from the winner, you know, at least the winner. But there's nothing. It just kind of farts out some crap for you to watch. And then, so no, I don't think Building the Band works. I think it's just yet another show where they're looking for talent, but the prize is not to actually embrace your talent. The prize is, here's some money, and then you have to split it amongst people. So it's really not even a lot of money. It's not like life-changing amounts of money where they won like $5 million, you know, and then they get to split it 3 ways. No, when you win, what is it, like 250,000, and then you split 3 ways, that goes pretty fast, especially in this economy. I don't know that anybody necessarily saved their home with that amount of money, but maybe they're able to make some payments. So, certainly by the time you get around to it, they don't have a whole ton of money left to be able to fly around and record and move. And if no one has really shown any interest in them, and there's no label, there's nothing for them, it seems like everything seems like a gamble at that point, because nobody supported them. They won this show and they just kind of, you know, left. Like the door opened and they kind of just went home, you know. And they couldn't tell anybody about it for a year. So their life has just been so weird for like a year. But it doesn't mean Netflix couldn't have been working with them. So Building the Band, I'm not going to grade it because I'm not reviewing it. I'm a Rotten Tomatoes approved critic, and I now just don't grade things if I don't plan on putting it on the tomato meter. But I wanted to put that out there in the world for people. It's more of like, does it work or doesn't work? And I don't think it works. So I found the series to be promising and entertaining, but the fact that they do nothing with these artists, and Netflix has sort of all the money in the world and all the capability in the world to be able to work with these artists because they produce all of their own content. They have all their own TV shows. We could have a frequency could have their own reality show coming up. I mean, there's so many different things that could happen, um, where you're just sort of perpetuating the talent and at least keeping them around. It's like, what's next for them? You know, there could be a whole reality series about frequency trying to break into the industry now. Is there? You know, Netflix seems to be all about making these shows and making versions of them and making them in other countries and other languages and spinning them off and then bringing characters from one show into another show. And it's all very ancestral right now. And breaking the band, building the band is breaking the band. This is the joke I was going to make. So we're breaking the band instead. So, yeah. So no grade. Anyway, I like the talents. I would listen to all three of the final three bands again, and I would actually listen to Midnight Till Morning. I'm interested in what their stuff is. I liked Siren Society. The only group I didn't like was Allison's group because of the exact same reason, is it felt like it was three soloists who were fighting each other. They never felt like a coherent group. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.